Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. Now, I know on Friday I put up another Tier 10 Soviet medium tank gameplay on this channel, and you know what, 3 marking a tank, who the hell cares? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am playing in the Churchill Game Carrier, right? This Tier 6 British tank destroyer, slug of a tank, and when I'm playing an exquisite vehicle like this, at the start of the battle I want to play it oh so seriously, right? So I decide to just make this bush wiggle a little bit. I'm thinking, what is wrong with this bush? Well, why does it flatten like that? I think we found some kind of buggy bush in World of Tanks, ladies and gents, and I was just thinking, okay, why not, you know, just mess around with this bush at the start of the game, because when you're playing in a tank that's just as stupid looking as this vehicle, I mean, you might as well go the whole hog, really. Can you get any more stupid than the Churchill Game Carrier or Gun Carrier, whatever the hell you want to be calling this tank? Well, I didn't think so, so I thought I might as well mess around at the back because my expectations for this vehicle were nigh on zero. Now, why was I playing this tank? I was playing this tank because all of you who watch the stream during the tank polls love to vote for me to play terrible tanks, right? And do you know what? Last time you all voted for the Churchill Gun Carrier, I kind of got my revenge on you, and I managed to pick up a Radley Walters medal playing this tank, and I just thought, well, I might as well finish playing World of Tanks, right? Because if you can get a Radley Walters medal in probably the worst Tier 6, or probably one of the worst tanks tier for tier in the game, what more is there to do? However, Wargaming, of course, fairly recently, during the British tank destroyer tech tree changes towards the end of last year, along with the Tortoise, gave this vehicle just tiny little buffs. They buffed the alpha damage up to 280, but they reduced the damage per minute to be able to, not the damage per minute, the rate of fire, to be able to compensate and to keep the damage per minute practically the same. And you know, I was thinking, well, why couldn't you have given this tank just a little bit more love, ladies and gentlemen? But you know what, after the replay that you're all gonna see here, I'm wondering why they don't nerf this tank. Maybe that's taking it a little too far. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. Look, the Churchill Gun Carrier is as simple as just sit in one position and hope that enemies just drive in front of your gun one by one, and hopefully do it at a distance where they can't spot it, because this big old slug of a tank doesn't exactly have the most sleek camo rating. It's certainly no E25. However, one thing I've really been enjoying on this tank, and I can't believe I said that, did I just say that I've been enjoying something on this vehicle, is this 94mm main armament. It's very similar to what you would have on the Carnarvon at Tier 8. The Carnarvon used to be probably one of the worst Tier 8 heavies, and then Wargaming just decided to buff its damage per minute astronomically, and now it's been doing pretty darn well at Tier 8. But to have that gun kind of on a Tier 6 tank, albeit with a much worse rate of fire, we're talking about 6.32 rounds a minute rather than the near 10 that the Carnarvon's going to be firing, it still feels okay. And at least you don't have to dab that 2 key very much in this tank, unless you're in literally the worst possible matchup and you're trying to go through the front of something like a KV-4. But wow, okay, so we're going to try and help out this T20 here. He's got a VK3001P, but no problem, buddy. The Churchill Game Carrier is here, puts a round right into the back of that little Tier 6 German medium tank, and that allows the T20 to finish him off. And right now I'm feeling pretty chipper, but even though I've done 1,467 damage, that's usually about twice as good as what I would usually do in this tank, we've still got a lot more to do. That's because there are a lot of very skilled players. Well, yeah, some very experienced players on the enemy team playing in, you know, balanced tanks like the Type 64. Oh, there goes the Type 64. Balanced tanks like the E25, and of course the Hellcat, which, you know what, the Hellcat in the hands of a very good player can be exceptional, but oh so terrible in the hands of a bad player. Alright, so this T20 struggling once again with a Tier 6 medium, this time of the Soviet variety, but never fear, Churchill is here. Puts one into the back of the T-34-85, hoping that they're going to slow down or even reverse to come back into my line of fire. Am I going to be able to loop one over the turret? The T20 decides to keep running. Great stuff! What awesome teamwork! Fantastic. You just keep running them round in circles, buddy, and you allow this horrific vehicle to just finish them off. Oh my word. Was this a real tank? I'm going to have to find out. I'm going to have to find out more about this vehicle after the couple of games that I've had in it recently, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so what is there to actually love about this vehicle? Well, the gun depression is one of them, 10 degrees. So that means that even though the top of this tank is absolutely horrific and boxy, you can manage to work over some ridgelines like this. And at this point of the game, I just figured out I have to just go after this IS. So I track him once, I I track him twice, lock him in place. I'm hoping that my Skoda T25 doesn't take a big old 122mm hit, but unfortunately it looks like that is exactly what happens. And so that means that right now, I just got to go to town on the back of this IS. You know what, I'm going to let him shoot me. I'm going to bounce my tank around a little bit, hopefully trying to get him to miss, but I can't really try and work my shells in between. And oh, what the... Literally saved there. The 122mm somehow bounces off this tank. It's got 88.9mm of frontal armor, but it's incredibly flat. But wow, didn't expect that. Taking down that tier 7 Soviet heavy tank. The artillery gives us a little bit of a love tap to the back of the vehicle, dealing 263 damage with the high explosive round there from the GW Panther. But now this is going to be a very interesting scenario. There's another Tier 6 British tank destroyer. It's the 88, and arguably it's one of the most heavily armoured tanks tier for tier in the game, and it's in the cap circle and it's on full health. How am I going to handle this one? It's got 800 hit points. I only start with 650 in this vehicle. Oh, you think I would have a little bit of an advantage. But one thing I can do better than this tank is I can depress the gun. And I know that that vehicle's got a bit of a weak point on top. And so if I only expose a tiny little bit of the top of the weak point on the 88, that means that they can't shoot me and I can still shoot them. And so that means we put 3 rounds into the row, not quite rolling high enough to be able to finish off the 88, but boy, what a turn of events here. Now up to 3,711 damage, ladies and gentlemen, in this absolute slug of a vehicle. But T150, likely using the KV5 gun, that 107mm, probably not going to one-shot us. No, pretty much impossible for that tank to one-shot us. But, you know, still got to watch out there. I don't want to lose these 387 hit points because that means then the GW Panther might be able to splash me towards the end of the game. So what we do now is we pull back behind the bush to a point where the T150... I'm not sure if the T150 will be able to spot us here. Doesn't look like he's able to. And the bush gives us enough cover to put 2 rounds in without return of fire. And wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Now 6 kills. I just don't really know now what to say about this vehicle. You look down the statistics and you see a whopping 25 kilometers an hour forward, top speed limit, with a power to weight ratio of 8.55. That's pretty much worse than most of the tier 10 super heavies. The armor is not very well angled, it's not very thick. The tracks can get taken off, and I believe because it's a Churchill, if they shoot you in the front of the tracks, they can also damage your hull at the same time as tracking you, which is incredibly annoying. The view range, 340 meters. That's not exactly terrible with binoculars, but just oh so not very good. The traverse speed, everything. The gun traverse to the left and to the right, 5 degrees. So you've got a very narrow gun traverse on the front of the vehicle, which means you constantly have to turn to re-engage your target, and you've got awful dispersion values. But why? Why is it that the last couple of times that I've played this tank that it just seems to be able to pull off some miraculous victories? I can't explain it. It's obviously... I can't explain it. I'm lost for words, completely lost for words. You're probably thinking there right now, oh, this stupid British idiot who's usually babbling on 24 hours a day, or at least it seems like that through his videos, is now lost for words talking about this tank. But I am. This whole game that we have seen here, the fact that there were 5 green players on the enemy team, no green players on my team, the fact that they had that E25, which is kind of probably one of the most powerful vehicles tier for tier in the game, and there was even an 88 on the enemy team that we had to slay, which is probably the vehicle that I would think you were absolutely insane if you chose to play this tank over the 88. And the fact that we took him out, I don't know. Maybe it is the Churchill Game Carrier, ladies and gents. Perhaps it is. I have to admit, I've seen, I think it's... Oh my word, I've forgotten their names. Is it the Awesome Epic guys on their YouTube channel that absolutely love this vehicle as well? I think they made a comment on my last Churchill tank review, and I kind of thought I should try and take this vehicle a little bit seriously, right? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, let's focus up on what we need to do at the end of this game, and that's try and find this GW Panther. I think I've got enough filler there for a little while for that kind of moment of trying to cross the whole battlefield, which seemed to take an absolute age in this slow tank. But you know what? Hats off to this T20. I asked the T20 earlier to basically like stick together, follow me, because the worst thing that could happen right now is if the T-20 was killed by the enemy artillery and left me in a 1 versus 1 engagement against a vehicle that's faster than me, can shoot me over ridge lines, probably got kind of like the same-ish view range, especially if I have to advance towards them and they've got their binoculars activated. And there you go, there's the GW Panther. I've got a high explosive round loaded, but it doesn't look like we're going to need it anymore. The GW Panther fires, kills the T-20, but we put a round into the Tier 7 German self-propelled gun, shutting down 7 enemy tanks. And what I still think is, I'm just done. I don't know. That's it. Is that it? Do I have to retire in World of Tanks now, ladies and gents? Is there anything left for me to do now that I've had 2 good games in this tank? I really don't know what to say. So this was unsurprisingly an ace tanker for the vehicle, a high caliber for the 4,563 damage, 1,719 base experience points. I'm pretty sure an ace in this tank would have probably been 700 base experience points. And while we fired a few premium rounds, we make 38,000 credits profit. Not too bad. Just to put it into perspective how terrible this tank is, there's less than 10 replays uploaded onto the QuickyBWOT Replays website for this vehicle during the whole of this patch. But then I dug a little bit deeper, and let's take a look at the best games of all time in the Churchill Game Carrier. And holy moly, I got 1,719 base experience points. There's only 4 replays that have ever achieved more than that in the history of this tank's release. But actually, on further inspection, this was back when the experience was bugged back in 2013, so that replay doesn't count. Does this one count? No, that replay doesn't count. Does this one count? Yes, this one does. Oh, darn it. What about this one? Have we got it? Oh, yeah, this one doesn't count either. So that means this was the second highest base experience points game uploaded of all time in the Churchill Gun Carrier. Now that I'm sure that there's probably some of you out there who have got much more experience than this and have never bothered to upload it. And if that's the case, prove me wrong. Go upload your Churchill Gun Carrier replays. But until you do, I just don't know what more I've got to do in this game. Do I have to retire? Possibly. And before I can hear those people typing down below, just hold your horses. I'm not going to claim that this was a huge display of finesse and skill in World of Tanks. The vehicle is incredibly low skill capped. I just got very lucky to be in the right situation at the right time, and then simply didn't make any mistakes, and there weren't really any precious scenarios. Nevertheless, I hope you all enjoyed this video for whatever reason. If you did, consider giving it a like, but if you hated it, make sure you give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, some of you tried to rig the poll. Well, when I say some, it was just one person, and there were kind of like 50 votes from the same IP/bot program that were all for the 113. But I spotted this, I squished it, and so the real winner this week is the 28 of you who voted for the T57 Heavy. And so come along right now as I start at Tier 1 and work my way up towards the vehicle which is probably the most brutal heavy tank for pure damage per minute power. And if you've never been to one of my Tech Tree showcases before, they're basically like miniature tank reviews all the way up, so you can see if it's a line that's worth grinding, or alternatively, if you already have the tanks, pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.